Hey guys, and welcome back to the Making of a Book series, video 2. That's right, it's video 2 because my book proposal was accepted and I just signed my contract today. So I thought I would bring you up to speed with what my book is going to be about and kind of fill you in on some of the details since I last talked to you. Pretty much right as soon as I finished the last video, I started putting together my ideas for what I thought would be a pretty fun book. And I had so many ideas just rolling around in my head that I had to type everything up. And as soon as I had that typed up, I sent it right over to Martingale. They are my publisher for this book. I really enjoy working with them. And so they are going to be turning my idea into what I hope is going to be an amazing and fun book for you guys. So what I have here are my notes that I typed up to send to them. And I am going to just kind of read through exactly what I typed up and sent over. My book proposal worked a little bit differently because I have worked with Martingale before. I didn't have my designs exactly nailed down ahead of time. I just had my ideas and what I hope to design should the proposal be accepted. If you are ever interested in writing a book of your own, most publishers will have their book proposal guidelines on their website, so you can easily pull that up and see what is normally expected with a book proposal. I'm so fortunate to have worked with Martingale before, so that makes this whole proposal process just really easy and streamlined for me. So this is what I sent to them. The book is tentatively, it's not going to be titled Happy Quilts, but that's just kind of the idea that I had in my head when I was thinking about this book as a whole. Happy Quilts. Because one of the things that I hear about often is that I design happy fabrics, and people will often say, your fabrics are so happy, they make me smile, or you just have the happiest fabrics. And so whenever I hear someone say you design happy fabrics, the first thing that pops into my head is happy fabrics make happy quilts. And I know that's kind of cheesy, but you know, sometimes you hear these things and that's just what pops in. So with that idea in my head, I started thinking about what exactly makes a happy quilt. Is there something about the quilt that makes it happy? It's certainly not just the fabrics, although the fabrics could make a quilt happy. And I started thinking about different categories that would make a quilt happy. And that's kind of where the idea for this book came from. So let me see. I think I'm just going to read to you some of my different categories that I had nailed down that could potentially make a happy quilt. The one made with fabrics you've been hanging on to. We all have those fabrics that for whatever reason we just can't cut into. They're favorites, or we don't maybe have the perfect pattern, but once that quilt is made, that's going to be a happy quilt. So that was one I thought of. The quilt made with fabrics from your scraps. Sometimes just the fact that we are using up our scraps makes a happy quilt. We don't have to go out and buy anything new. We've got everything we need to make a quilt. The one you made for a friend. I mean, that's reason to make a happy quilt, right? The one you made for a friend. The one made using your favorite color. The one made using fat quarters, or the one made using layer cakes, or the one made using jelly rolls. It could be any sort of pre-cut, but sometimes a quilt that makes us happy is because we have a pre-cut on hand that works really well, or we see one in a quilt shop and we buy it and it works really well, but it's made using whatever pre-cut that might be. There's a little bit of wiggle room on this one depending on what design I end up using for this category. I might change what that pre-cut is, but you know, some pre-cut quilt is what I'm thinking for that category. The one made for Christmas. We all have beautiful, well, maybe we don't all have beautiful quilts for Christmas, but if you don't already have one, it's probably something that you want to make. And once you do make it, the one made for Christmas is always a fun one. The one made for your new grandbaby. How fun is that? That brings a smile to my face. Making quilts for babies is one of the ways that a lot of quilters start making quilts, is because they have a new grandbaby, or they have a new niece or nephew or son or daughter that they want to make a quilt for. And that's actually how a lot of people get started making quilts. The one that uses your favorite quilt block. That would make me happy. I'm a big fan of the Ohio Star, so as soon as I jotted that idea down, I thought, that's got to be something with an Ohio Star, because I love an Ohio Star quilt block. The one my grandma made for me. I have one quilt that My grandma pieced for me using my Lulu Lane fabric line, which was named after my grandma, and my mom hand quilted that one for me. And that's one of my favorite quilts, and that quilt certainly makes me happy. The one that has the minky backing. I don't know about you, maybe you've never made a quilt with a minky back, but I know those are the ones in our house that all of my family members fight over. And in fact, I don't even bother putting out the ones that don't have a minky back or a flannel back, because they're just gonna get skipped right over for the ones with the minky back. Those are the ones that make us happy when we wanna snuggle up on the quilt with snuggle up on the couch with a cozy quilt. The one that is hand quilted. Hand quilting on quilts is just something special, and those quilts are always so fun. They also are cozier oftentimes than quilts that are machine quilted. If you have never snuggled with a hand quilted quilt as opposed to a machine quilted quilt, you would probably be surprised about the difference in how those quilts lay and drape and their snuggleability. So the one that is hand quilted, that might be a reason that that quilt makes you extra happy. And also, depending on who hand quilted that, I have some really old hand quilted quilts that have been passed down in my family, and just thinking about the time and the ladies gathered around those quilts, hand quilting them, is just really neat for me to think about. And those are some of the categories that I thought about. I had a couple others, but I don't know that I'm gonna use any of those, so I'm not gonna throw those out there. Those were my main categories. And so now I just need to get started designing the quilts. And that's the next thing that I'm gonna be sharing with you guys in the next video. I want to show you those quilt designs, kind of share maybe some of the fabrics that I'm planning on using, let you know if I have changed any of my ideas for my categories. And there's a couple other little secrets in what I typed up here to send in to my publisher that you guys are gonna find out a little bit later, but that is the main idea of the book. So happy quilts, or quilts that make you happy, happiness in a quilt. I'm not exactly sure what the title will end up being, but that kind of gives you an idea of where we are going with this book. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really fun to share with you all as we go forward. And I hope you guys find it interesting and fun as we're going too. So stay tuned. I should be back next week with the next installment for making a book. Talk to you later.